Homeschooling, definitely something we thought we'd never do. I've now been homeschooling for 6 months. If you can call what I did the last 6 months homeschooling, I thought I would do this little video because I learned a lot as a new homeschooler who has no background in teaching, and I thought I would share it with you guys. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, then keep watching. So I'm homeschooling a year 7, a year 5, I had to think about that for a second, and a year 2 child. So totally different grades and totally different learning abilities. The first challenge that I had was finding the right curriculum that suited my child's learning needs and what I was able to take on. Because of the way the curriculum is taught in schools, my children have a lot of gaps in their knowledge that they should know. So I actually had to go back and go through and assess what they knew, what they didn't, and we're spending the last 6 months and the next 6 months filling in those gaps to get them to where they should be. So that's what this whole year is about. And I didn't realize how much curriculum is out there. It's overwhelming, and we tried so many. So that was challenge number 1. So the next challenge I have is the environment, the learning environment. You know, because we're not a homeschooling family, originally it was never done from the start. They've always gone to kindy and to school. That's always happened in our family. Our home has always been a kind of a fun, environment where they would play, where they would watch TV, where they would have meals, play on their devices. And all I would do with homeschooling is I would just do it at the table, at our dining room table where we have family meals. I had watched so many videos on homeschooling. I probably watched hundreds and hundreds of hours of homeschooling videos. And I thought it would be fine, but I noticed that it created more challenges doing it this way. Toast popped. As I was saying, I was watching hundreds of videos, and the one thing that was sort of said when you start homeschooling, it takes about a year to unschool, and I sat there and thought I could persevere and really try and get the kids used to this new way of schooling, but to be honest, I don't have a year of patience in me, so I need to come up with another solution. And what I realized, what was happening, was that the living area is right next to our kitchen. So my kids were eating all the time. We were going through so much food and I was doing so much baking. I was just like, I can't sustain this. This is exhausting. The other thing I noticed is they were constantly distracted. They would try and rush through their work or come up with reasons why they were too tired to do their work. They didn't want to do their work. They weren't motivated to do their work. They didn't like doing their work. They were just like, they just weren't in the school mode, they were in home mode. And that's because all the devices are up here. This is our living area, this is our fun area, and they couldn't switch from home mode to school mode. So I decided to create a classroom. Now, I know some people might be for this or against it. We're lucky enough that we had a separate room and we had some leftover paint, so I gave it a quick paint job, and we were actually able to create a classroom. Now I only had a budget of 300. Lucky enough, I had an old shelf, I had an old desk and chair, and a little desk and chair that I had brought from I brought these secondhand years ago. So I only needed one more desk and one more shelf. I found another chair identical to the chair I got from an op shop for $25, so I was really happy about that. And I picked up this desk for 120. And I got some boards and stuff, and with all the stickers and the shelves, I probably spent about $300, which is a lot of money for us. Since doing this, all those distractions, because we've created a tech-free class, there's nothing in the classroom that is technology except for my phone. So what I do is in the mornings, as soon as I get up, before I do my workout, I go into the classroom, I turn on all the lights, I turn on the heater, and so the room is warm and the room's ready to go. And then I just go downstairs a little bit before school starts and I set up my phone to have background kind of calming music, and then they pile in and we start the day. I've noticed since doing this, they have switched from home mode to school mode. Now, the only time we're in this classroom is when we're doing the academic work, stuff like maths, language arts, and stuff like that we have to do that is very academic and paper-based. Everything else is incorporated to like daily life. So we have that balance of homeschooling benefits, but also a classroom atmosphere. And we may not need this classroom in a year from now, but just to start with, to help transition from school to homeschool, this has really worked for us. So the second challenge I have was the organisation. Because I spent the first 6 months not knowing what I was doing, the kids didn't know what they were doing, it caused a lot of frustrations. And I would set work out for the day and then realise, oh, I haven't given them enough, and then I would either overload them or underload them, and there was just no balance. It was kind of extremes because I didn't know what they were meant to do or how much they're meant to do. I didn't know what their capabilities were. I thought they were at their year level, but the year level in New Zealand levels are a lot lower. So using the American curriculum for that year was too advanced because they hadn't learned any of those concepts. So it was a real struggle, and I was determined to go into the next term with a plan. I broke the curriculum down over a homeschooling year. So for us, it's 46 weeks. I decided to do 46 because I don't want to have a huge break over summer. I'd rather do a little bit of academic throughout the year than pile into it each day over 40 weeks to have a huge break. I just decided, no, I don't want to do that. I'd rather do less during the year, but over a longer period of time. So I broke down how much they had to do, but I did it on a 42-week basis. So I've got 4 weeks in case they get sick or something happens. So I've got that little buffer. And I just worked out how many lessons they had to do a day, how many pages they had to do a day on each subject or a week, or what we were doing. So for me to be super organized, I am a list person. So I created a book, which I'm going to show you. I created my own little planner, which has helped me immensely. So this is my folder. It's just an old folder I had, and I just created this planner. So it's just I just created it in Canva. And what I did was I put the calendar and highlighted all the holidays for the year. So I knew kind of what I had to do. Now, obviously this plan is going from July to December because that's the last 2 terms in the year. For New Zealand, our schooling year is February to December, and January is complete holidays. Our summer is from December to the end of February. So that's kind of how things work here. And I just labelled it term 3, and then I've got term 4 here. So term 3 is just like a nice little title page. And then there's term 4, which I'll be theming for Christmas. Now, I don't actually plan term 4 until the end of term 3. I feel like planning one term is perfect. I have an overview of what I'm doing for the year, but this detailed planning, I would kind of base it down. Now, what we're doing here is this is all the subjects that we're teaching. I just haven't got topic studies in here, but I will add them in later. But yeah, these are all the subjects that we have to kind of teach as a curriculum in New Zealand, except for Bible studies. Obviously, that's something we teach. And I just put a list of an overview of the curriculums I'm using, and I can do another video of a breakdown of the curriculums we use if you want. Just let me know in the comments. So the next page is my reading planner for the term. So I want them to read about 10 books each, and they're based on their interest and their reading level. So we've got group ones that are based on either this one's a history book, these ones have values that I want to, and also they are on sort of historical people, so they're learning about historical like figures of our past, which is really good, that promote a good value. And then I've just listed 10 books that I think in the series that I think they would enjoy reading. Most of these are from the library. Now, I looked in, as I was writing this list, in our library database to make sure they had all these if I didn't already have them on hand. And then I just put in a free choice book at the end, just in case there's something that they want to read. And I've written it in pencil because sometimes they find a series that they love, and it will, I can sort of change these out. I actually do get them to do a book report on each one of these. So this is Ayla's narration book. And what I did is I created these little printables. So I just created them and stuck them, like 10 of them, into a book. And so, for instance, all the girls have a book like this, and they just put in the book number, the title, the author, how the book made them feel, their favourite part, the rating of the book, how they found it, when they read it, so the date, the pace they read it, like how long it took them, and who their favourite character was. And this just kind of helps them like learn how to write a book report. So when we come to the monthly planner, we've got July, and I just write down all the activities we're booked in for the month, and if there's any reminders like the school holidays. And like if you look at August, it's there's a birthday in the month, and then there's Father's Day. So what I do is I plan around the curriculum around some holidays. So we might do a big project for Father's Day leading up to Father's Day, so that we can make Father's Day a bit special. But this is my actual planner. So I just have group work and each of their names with the days that we do it. And I write in pencil so that I can change it if I need to. I try to avoid writing in pen, which I did there, but that's okay. And as we do it each day, I just tick it off. So today's Wednesday, which you'll be seeing this on Thursday. As they complete each task, I'll tick it off. Yeah, and so this is what actually goes on their times table as well. And then what I do to help my youngest one, who's still learning to write stories, sometimes she's not very good at coming up with stories on her own. So I just have a huge list of writing prompts that will help her. And I just wrote them all down. In hindsight, I probably should have typed it because my W's are weird. Like my writing is so terrible. So yeah, I should have typed it. Next time I will. And I just tick off each one that we use as we use it if she needs it. Like yesterday, she couldn't think of a story. So we used, when I finish my schoolwork, I will. And she's like, oh, I will go swimming. So it's not like she's coming up with the whole 2 sentences or the whole sentence, but at least it's kind of prompting her. And the more practice she gets and the easier it is for her, the more likely she'll do it. That's kind of just helpful to me so I don't have to think on the spot. The other thing I do is I plan out my memory verses. You can use poetry, you can use quotes. We use scripture, and these verses go with the Jesus storybook, which we've read like several times. So this time we're just having a verse that goes with certain chapters or certain things, and during the week they learn the verse over the week, and then we just have colouring and pictures for her. My other 2 children actually do a Bible study through ACE, which is very, very good. And that's kind of my planner. So at the back, I also have a supervisor process card, which I use to, like, if they do, this is just a blank one. When they get to the age of doing tests, you would put their test number, final score, date, and then you can just keep a record of each subjects of their test, so you've got something to refer to, and it just keeps a good record. So that is my planner that I created to make my homeschooling journey a little bit easier. So the third challenge I had to overcome was motivation. Motivating my kids to actually want to do schooling and to do their best work. I wanted to create a way of motivating without having to nag them. Like, it's exhausting trying to pushing someone all the time, or multiple people. Yeah, I got such bad fatigue in the first 6 months. What I decided to do is create a way of motivating them in 3 ways. I don't know about you guys, but because I'm with my kids all day, sometimes they just don't listen to me and they just kind of play up a bit more for me than they would, other people. And like I would often say to them, would you behave like this to your teacher, or would you talk like this to your teacher? And that they would say no. And I'm like, then why are you talking to me like that? And they, because you're my mum. And I'm like, that's not. So I needed to come up with a strategy. So I wasn't always telling them off, because that creates a negative environment. And I don't want to be the person that's always nagging my children, always telling them off. But what I noticed is when dad comes home, they don't question dad. They have a high respect for dad. And it's because he's at work all day. If the roles were reversed, it would be the same. It's just whoever's at home is the one they kind of play up for. So I decided to use this to my advantage. And after much discussions, Matthew and I had a chat about it. And so what we do is at the end of every day, when the girls have, when Matthew gets home from work and he's had some detox time after dinner, the girls will present their work to him. Whatever they've done, he will go through it with them to see what they've done out of interest. And it's a positive experience. They don't get told off if they haven't done enough work. They don't get told off if their work is messy. There's none of that going on. When they showed Matthew, their dad, their work, he would just praise them. He was like, this is really good. And if they hadn't done enough work, he'd be like, oh, is this all you done? And they're like, yeah. And then they'll explain how they felt, or that they were really tired. And he would say, oh, maybe we need to have an earlier night so you can, feel a bit more energized to do the work tomorrow. And so the natural consequence of them being tired is they would go to bed a little bit earlier. But it's not me going, oh, as a punishment, it's as a solution to their problem. So it was quite good in the way it worked. It's worked really well. And if they had got lots of mistakes and they hadn't really put the work into their work, they've just kind of, and which they did many times, where they just kind of wrote anything, didn't really give much thought about it, so they got it wrong, he would go through it with them again to make sure they understood. And so they would end up having to redo the work with him, which they didn't want to do it twice, so they ended up doing better the first time. So this strategy was amazing 90% of the time. Because Matthew does work full time and his job is really exhausting, we don't do it every night. Most nights we do it, but not every night. The other thing I introduced was the star chart. This is new this term, and it's based on what used to happen to school, where they would get star time. So every pupil in the school would earn a star for certain behaviours or certain things, put it in the pot, and when the whole school got the enough stars, they would do this whole star day. So it's based on that concept. So I've created a sticker chart, and I've just based it on 3 principles, which is work completion. So the second one is classroom role model behaviour. And then the third one is presentation of work. So that's how they get their stars. And once they hit 75 stars as a group, then we go on an outing, and our what they're building for this time is actually chipmunks. So we'll go, once they hit 75 stars, doesn't matter how long it takes them, we'll end up going on an outing, and then each time we achieve that outing, we create a new one. And what it does, it gets them to take personal responsibility for their behaviour, but it also, the natural consequence is if one of them is kind of not performing and earning the stars like they should, the other 2 have to pick up the slack, and it takes longer. So the natural consequences, they're going to try and encourage that person to get the stars. The last thing I set up to motivate them, which I found really, really good in the last term. So we decided to do an end of term award. So on the last day of term, we have a bit of a celebration. We have a special dinner, and then we have an award ceremony, and where I present each child a certificate. Now the certificate, you only get a certificate for work completed. So it's just that you completed everything that I set for you this task, and I want to thank you. So they get a certificate, and $10. And that was just like a little, well done, you worked hard this term, I'm really proud of you. The other thing we introduced was a principal's award. Now this is something that most schools do, and I think it's really important because it brings dad into the equation, who is the principal. Only one award and it comes with $30. Really about the attitude, who is thriving for that, you know, for that excellence. And that's it. That is my first 6 months in homeschooling and the challenges that I've had to overcome. If you got to this part of the video, I hope you enjoyed it. I did talk a lot and my coffee's gone cold. But definitely give this video, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. And let me know in the comments some things that you do in your classroom that help motivate your children and overcome those challenges. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.